Okay. Okay. Welcome to the quantitative research methods. This is one of the lecture that we have at the Statistics Study Program, Mathematics Department, University of Indonesia. So, what are we doing in this lecture? Basically, we've done quite almost all of the process that we need to do in doing research. It's just we just need to do the last task of the research, okay? But just to recall, to refresh our mind what we've been doing so far, I found out that this flowchart is really representing what we've been doing. This is from this website. I got it. So then this is kind of like a general research process. It doesn't have to um, strictly follow this pattern, but most of the time it's like this, okay? So what we've been doing so far for this lecture is, okay, research starts with determining the topic, okay? What topic that I'm researching on? Okay, how to determine the topic? Usually it depends on your experiences and your knowledge. And in the very first 1 or 2 weeks of our lectures, we've discussed about this. And then this topic will help us like to develop the research objectives and research questions that will provide direction to conduct the literature reviews, which we've done also in our lecture. But instead of doing it on this direction from number 2 to number 3, in this lecture we did it the other way around. That is, after determining the topic, we did conduct our literature review. Why we do that? Because, the topic is kind of like still very general. For the research, we need it to be a very specific one. Okay, and then to find out exactly what we need to do, then we need to have kind of like a big picture of what other people have been doing on this topic. And to get to know that big picture, it means that we have to do our task in reading. Okay, we read um, most or lots of publications in that related topic, and that's how what we do in the literature review. Okay, so from our reading, then we know that, okay, this research A has been doing this, the researcher B has been doing that, researcher C has been doing some other things, and then from all that things, then we can identify some things that probably haven't been elaborated in those research. Okay, so that's what we call by finding the gap of the research, and then from that gap we can decide on, okay, so I think that we need to do this, and then we can finally form our research questions, okay, from the gap. So, oh, I think that what about this? Okay, how is it the relationship between A and B or something like that? So that's how we form the research questions based on the identified gaps that we've got from the literature review. And then from the research questions, it leads to the research objectives, like we set the goals of what we should reach from this result. Okay, and then once we set the goals in here, then okay, now what to do next? Because we are in statistics, so usually we work mostly based on data. Then to get our goals, we need to do some data analysis. But before doing the analysis, then we need to obtain the data first. Okay, so we need to take the data. And then before taking the data, then we need to have the tools to get the data that is in here. What does it mean by the instruments? That is the tools to get the data. In our case, usually it is in the form of questionnaires or a list of several questions. We've also learned how to design a good questionnaire, what kind of questions that we need to avoid uh, to prevent the respondents, the non-response from the respondents. Okay, so then once we have our instruments, then we are ready to collect the data. But then how are you going to collect it? Will you give your instrument to just random people that you meet? Or will you just give it to some close friends or just to some groups of people? It depends on, again, what is your research objectives, and then what kind of data that you need to collect. So we also have learned about the sampling scheme or sampling methodology that is mainly divided into two approaches. They are probability sampling and non-probability sampling. And you've also done designing your sampling scheme, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so once we have the instruments and we design our sampling, now we are ready to collect the data. So then to the next steps is conducting field work to collect the data. Okay, uh, actually we plan to do that, but unfortunately, because of the COVID-19 situation that we have now, that we all have to remain at home, okay, try to avoid outdoor activities. So we can't really do these steps as a substitute. You may just, get secondary data if you have access to it. For example, like getting from online database, right? Okay, and then, or you can still conduct your survey using your questionnaire online. It's also okay to do it with that. Okay, now let's say we have collected our data, so the next step is that to do the data analysis. And there are two approaches to do that, that is qualitative and quantitative. We are not into the qualitative, we are more in the quantitative approach. Okay, so we also done using the data processing and analysis. What you really need to pay attention in here is that how to determine a suitable methods to proceed your data. Usually it depends on, again, the research objectives, what is the aim of the research, and the type of the data that you have. Okay, then after that, finish with the data processing and analyzing the result. Then the next steps is that this is the last step. In one cycle of doing the research, you need to present the result, okay? Because what is the um, point of doing a research if you just keep it to yourself, right? So you do your presentations, consultations, and report writing. Okay, consultations in here you can consult with your supervisors, or in this case is for this lecture you can have a consultation with me. It can also be like, okay, for us it's just on the point of view of statistician. Okay, where sometimes we look at the result is only based on like whether it is statistically significant or not. Why? Actually, for example, in the context of the problem itself, even the slight trend or slight pattern identified, it is already good for them. Okay, so in that case, although it is not statistically significant, but probably we still need to keep it in our model. We still need to report the result. So that's kind of like we can get something like that is based on the consultation with the experts in the context of the problem. So it would be better if we have kind of like, a complete point of view to the problem that we are researching. Okay, so after the consultations that we confirm all point of views and that kind of things, so now you are ready to write your report. And the report can be in the forms of publication in books, chapter, journal, or some other forms. But then our agreement for this lecture is that the outcome for this lecture is like a paper draft, right? So